Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Radha Govinda Dev Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Welcome, Hare Krishna. Here we are for another session where we get to go on an adventure with our best divine friend, Sri Krishna. And we get to see what he will do next. This session is called Imposter. We'll find out what that means very soon. It'll be a really fun night of figuring out how Krishna shows his mercy and his kindness in so many different ways. But first, in order to bring our minds to the divine realm of Vrindavan Dham, we will sing Jai Radha Madhava, everybody's favorite. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradhari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradhari Jashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Chamunatiravana Chari Jashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Chamunatiravana Chari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jannavalava Girivaradhari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jannavalava Girivaradhari Jai Radha Madhava Jai Radha Madhava Radhe Govinda Jaya Radhe Govinda Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai Shri Radha Govinda Dev Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. So we are going to find out what this imposter story is all about. And even though this pastime is a Dwarka pastime, we heard last night that even Dwarkadish, Vasudev Krishna, yearns to enjoy pastimes like Govinda in Vrindavan. So it is always a good idea to invoke Sri Vrindavan Dham, because by invoking the Lord's abode, we entice him closer and closer into our midst. So I hope and pray that Govinda Dev, Madhava, Sri Krishna Chandra places his lotus feet within this assembly, in our association, so that we can swim in the ocean of the nectarian pastimes of Krishna and all of his friends. Tonight we'll be reading from Krishna book. This is a little bit later in the book, and as always, because you'll be able to hear where this story is going from the moment I start reading it, I'm going to leave out the title, because I like to just let it unfold and let it happen. But Srila Prabhupada writes it in such a way that we find out exactly what's going to happen as soon as we enter into this pastime. So let us strap on our seatbelts. Let's get ready for this divine transport into another realm. We can say our magical incantation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I have friends who are already saying that they love this pastime. I also love this pastime. I hope that it brings joy to your hearts, and that we all have a little bit of a lighthearted time tonight. The story of King Pondrak is very interesting, because there have always been many rascals and fools who have considered themselves to be God. Even in the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, there was such a foolish person. His name was Pondrak, and he wanted to declare himself to be God. While Lord Balaram was absent in Vrindavan, this King Pondrak, the king of the Karusha province, being foolish and puffed up, sent a messenger to Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna is accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and King Pondrak directly challenged Krishna through the messenger who stated that Pondrak, and not Krishna, was Vasudev. In the present day, there are many foolish followers of such rascals. Similarly, in his day, many foolish men accepted Pondrak as the supreme personality of Godhead. Because he could not estimate his own position, Pondrak falsely thought himself to be Lord Vasudev. Thus the messenger declared to Krishna that out of his causeless mercy, King Pondrak, the supreme personality of Godhead, had descended on the earth just to deliver all distressed persons. Surrounded by many other foolish persons, this rascal Pondrak had actually concluded that he was Vasudev, the supreme personality of Godhead. This kind of conclusion is certainly childish. When children are playing, they sometimes create a king amongst themselves, and the child who is selected thinks that he is the king. Similarly, many foolish persons, due to ignorance, select another fool as God, and then the rascal considers himself God, as if God could be created by childish play or by the votes of men. Under this false impression, thinking himself the Supreme Lord, Pondrak sent his messenger to Dwarka to challenge the position of Krishna. The messenger reached the royal assembly of Krishna in Dwarka and conveyed the message given by his master Pondrak. The message contained the following statements. Now before I read this message of Pondrak Vasudev, I sometimes wind up thinking, isn't that my own position? I like to think myself in charge. I like to think myself the controller. I like to think that I'm actually doing something. No, Krishna, I'm handling this. I'm handling life. And then I think myself to be someone extremely important, gathering followers, amassing all kinds of different attention. And ultimately, it's so that I can show off to who? Krishna. It is so easy to fall into the trap of being like Pondrak. And just how incredibly foolish must the Lord think me when I show up with all of my power, my ability not to control anything. You know, I get one stomach virus and I know how much in control I am not. We have no control even over what's happening within our bodies. If our hearts fail or our lungs fail or we stop taking in air, that's it for us. But we trick ourselves into thinking that we are such great people, controllers, masters, whatever the case may be. How many messages have we sent out challenging the authority of Sri Krishna? Thinking, I can tell him who I am. He should know. He is my order carrier. He should be the one to just fulfill all my desires. When really, I'm meant to be enjoyed by Govinda. Meant to give myself in service to Govinda. Understanding that he is the master. He is the controller. Supreme Lord. And that is not a bad thing. Doesn't make us the loser. In understanding our position, we win everything. So while this story of Pondrak is always very humorous to look at, sometimes I have to think, how humorous do I look to Krishna? I want to remember this story. I want to remember this pastime. And remind myself not to fall into that trap. Not to be like Pondrak. Not to think that, it's great. Now everybody's praising me. I'm glad they see my greatness. Sachinandan Maharaj tells the story of Jesus riding into Nazareth on a donkey. And there are so many people They are throwing flowers. They have a big festival. They're welcoming him with wreaths and garlands, etc. And Jesus, in his humility, is thinking, this is not for me. This must be for someone else. But the donkey that he's riding on is thinking, finally, they've understood how important I am, and now they've arranged this huge festival just for me. It's about time they realized. Sachinandan Maharaj encourages us not to be like that donkey. I want to have that remembrance. To know that whatever good is coming is Krishna's mercy. And that whatever good and whatever abundance that I am reaping in my life, it is due to just my association with Krishna. All the best things in my life have come not because of me, not because of all the great things I'm doing, but because I am endeavoring to be in Govinda's association, in Govinda's family, in Govinda's heart. So I pray that we all remember, as we spoke about yesterday, how we are part of Govinda's family, and that is what makes us all amazing. That is what makes us wonderful, beautiful, strong, opulent, anything good is but a spark of Krishna's splendor. And when we come in contact with that spark, also as sparks of Krishna and his splendor, that flame gets fanned, and suddenly we accomplish things we never thought we could have before. That is empowerment. But that is only from being in contact with Krishna's effulgence. So let's see what this message of Pondrak has to say to Sri Krishna. The message contained the following statements. I am the only Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudeva. There is no man who can compete with me. I have descended as King Pondrak, taking compassion on the distressed, conditioned souls out of my unlimited, causeless mercy. You have falsely taken the position of Vasudeva without authority, but you should not propagate this false idea. You must give up your position. O descendant of the Yadu dynasty, please give up all the symbols of Vasudeva, which you have falsely assumed. And after giving up this position, come and surrender unto me. If out of your gross impudence you do not care for my words, then I challenge you to fight. I am inviting you to a battle in which the decision will be settled. Those are strong words. In New York, we call those fighting words. When all the members of the royal assembly, including King Ugrasena, heard this message sent by Pondrak, they laughed very loudly for a considerable time. After enjoying the loud laughter of all the members of the assembly, Krishna replied to the messenger as follows. I love that Krishna kind of just laughed at him. Everybody laughed. That poor messenger who had to bring that message, I can only imagine what he's feeling. He has to be the one to carry this message. And what they say is the people around Pondrak were not thinking, you rascal, get out of here. They were thinking, yes, my master is God. He must be. He's so confident. Krishna replied to the messenger as follows. O messenger of Pondrak, you may carry my message to your master. I shall never give up the symbols of Vasudeva, especially my disc. I shall use this disc, in fact, to kill not only King Pondrak, but all his followers also. I shall destroy Pondrak and his foolish associates, who merely constitute a society of cheaters and cheated. When this action is taken, foolish king, you will have to conceal your face in disgrace, and when your head is severed from your body by my disc, it will be surrounded by meat-eating birds like vultures, hawks, and eagles. At that time, instead of becoming my shelter as you have demanded, you will be subjected to the mercy of those low-born birds. At that time, your body will be thrown to the dogs, who will eat it with great pleasure." The messenger carried the words of Lord Krishna to his master Pondrak, who patiently heard all these insults. Without waiting longer, Lord Sri Krishna immediately started out on his chariot to punish the rascal Pondrak. Because at that time the king of Karusha was living with his friend, the king of Kashi, Krishna surrounded the whole city of Kashi. Talk about collateral damage. King Pondrak was a great warrior, and as soon as he heard of Krishna's attack, he came out of the city along with 2 Akshohini divisions of soldiers. The king of Kashi, who was also a friend to King Pondrak, the king of Kashi was also a friend to King Pondrak, and he came out with 3 Akshohini divisions. When the 2 kings came before Lord Krishna to oppose him, Krishna saw Pondrak face to face for the first time. Usually we see people seeing Krishna face to face for the first time, and it's a cause of great ecstasy. Let us see the form of Pondrak Vasudev. Krishna saw that Pondrak had decorated himself with the symbols of the conch shell, disc, lotus, and club. He carried the saranga bow, and on his chest was the insignia of Srivatsa. His neck was decorated with a false Kastuba jewel, and he wore a flower garland in exact imitation of Lord Vasudev. He was dressed in yellow-colored silken garments, and the flag on his chariot carried the symbol of Garuda, exactly imitating Krishna's. He had a very valuable helmet on his head, and his earrings, like swordfish, glittered brilliantly. He even tried to have the shark-shaped earrings of Krishna. On the whole, however, his dress and makeup were clearly imitation. Anyone could understand that he was just like someone on stage, playing the part of Vasudev in false dress. So he had like 2 false arms, so he could have 4 arms, so he could carry all the insignia. His mark of Srivatsa, which is usually a whitish-colored hair on the chest of Sri Krishna. Now this false Vasudev has his own insignia. I'm like, what did he draw it on with some eyeliner pencil? Like, what is going on with this guy? When Lord Sri Krishna saw Pondrak imitating even his posture and dress, he could not check his laughter, and thus he laughed with great satisfaction. Can you imagine? You go to war with someone, you meet them on the battlefield, and the moment they look at you, they burst out laughing and probably pointing. That has to be so humiliating when your enemies are just laughing at you. It says anyone, nobody could check their laughter either. So it's not just Krishna's laughing, everybody, all the yadus are laughing. So lots of people are calling him a low-budget actor. Yeah, because I don't think his disguise was that great. So he's got these arms, he's got all of this fancy jewelry on, but he's got a fake Kastuba jewel, he's got his knockoff like his CZ jewels. It's not great. The soldiers on the side of King Pondrak began to shower their weapons upon Krishna. Now, of course, they're getting angry because now their master is being mocked by Krishna. I mean, he's not really being mocked by Krishna. He mocked his own self. To be real, he did it to himself. But this is us. How many times do we say, okay, Krishna, I got this. I can be in control of so many mystic potencies. I can meditate and do all kinds of things. But Krishna is the master of all mystical potencies. What do we look like to him when we try to do everything ourselves? We look like imitations, when really we should be doing what comes naturally to our souls, which is loving and serving Krishna in all of his majesty and greatness. And then it is said that all mystical potencies and everything come as a natural byproduct of service to Krishna. Isn't that something? Mystical powers come as a byproduct of devotional service. So the soldiers on the side of King Pondrak began to shower their weapons upon Krishna. The weapons, including various kinds of tridents, clubs, poles, lances, swords, daggers, and arrows, came flying in waves, and Krishna counteracted them. He smashed not only the weapons but also the soldiers and assistants of Pondrak. Just as during the dissolution of this universe the fire of devastation burns everything to ashes. The elephants, chariots, horses, and infantry belonging to the opposite party were scattered by the weapons of Krishna. The whole battlefield became scattered with the bodies of animals and chariots. There were fallen horses, elephants, men, asses, and camels. Although the devastated battlefield appeared like the dancing place of Lord Shiva at the time of the dissolution of the world, the warriors who were on the side of Krishna were very much encouraged by seeing this, and they fought with greater strength. At this time, Lord Krishna told Pondrak, "Pondrak, you requested me to give up the symbols of Lord Vishnu, specifically my disc. Now I will give it up to you. Be careful. You falsely declare yourself to be Vasudev, imitating myself. Therefore, no one is a greater fool than you." From this statement of Krishna's, it is clear that any rascal who advertises himself as God is the greatest fool in human society. Krishna continued, "Now, Pondrak, I shall force you to give up this false representation. You wanted me to surrender unto you. Now this is your opportunity. We shall now fight, and if I am defeated and you become victorious, I shall certainly surrender unto you." In this way, after chastising Pondrak very severely, he smashed his chariot to pieces by shooting an arrow. It says an arrow. One arrow. This is Krishna's heroism. These are the adventures of Govinda, our best friend. With the help of his disc, he separated the head of Pondrak from his body, just as Indra shaves off the peaks of mountains by striking them with his thunderbolt. Similarly, he also killed the king of Kashi with his arrows. Lord Krishna specifically arranged to throw the head of the king of Kashi into the city of Kashi itself, so that his relatives and family members could see it. This was done by Krishna just as a hurricane carries a lotus petal here and there. Lord Krishna killed Pondrak and his friend Kashiraj on the battlefield, and then he returned to his capital city, Dwarka. Sri Krishna Chandra Bhagavan ki jai! Dwarkadish ki jai! Victory to our best friend. When Lord Krishna returned to the city of Dwarka, all the siddhas from the heavenly planets were singing the glories of the Lord. As far as Pondrak was concerned, somehow or other, he was always thinking of Lord Vasudev by falsely dressing himself in that way, and therefore Pondrak achieved Sarupya, one of the 5 kinds of liberations, and was thus promoted to the Vaikuntha planets, where the devotees have the same bodily features as Vishnu, with 4 hands, holding the 4 symbols. This is the mercy of our Lord, even to an imposter. That imposter is granted entrance into the divine realm. How glorious is our friend! How magnanimous, how compassionate, how gracious, how merciful is our friend. He has a place and makes a place for everyone. Pondrak wanted to have the same form as Lord Krishna. He was promoted to Vaikuntha Loka with Sarupya Mukti, where he is able to have a 4-handed form, just like Lord Vishnu. Factually, Pondrak's meditation was concentrated on the Vishnu form, but because he thought himself to be Lord Vishnu, it was offensive. After being killed by Krishna, however, that offense was also mitigated. Thus he was given Sarupya liberation, and he attained the same form as the Lord. When the head of the king of Kashi was thrown through the city gate, people gathered and were astonished to see that wonderful thing. When they found out that there were earrings on it, they could understand that it was someone's head. They conjectured as to whose head it might be. Some thought it was Krishna's head, because Krishna was the enemy of Kashiraj, and they calculated that the king of Kashi might have thrown Krishna's head into the city so that the people might take pleasure that the enemy was killed. But it was finally detected that the head was not Krishna's, but that of Kashiraj himself. When it was so ascertained, the queens of the king of Kashi immediately approached and began to lament the death of their husband. "Our dear Lord," they cried, "upon your death we have become just like dead bodies." The king of Kashi had one son whose name was Sudakshana. After observing the ritualistic funeral ceremonies, he took a vow that since Krishna was the enemy of his father, he would kill Krishna and in this way liquidate his debt to his father. Therefore, accompanied by a learned priest qualified to help him, he began to worship Mahadev, Lord Shiva. The Lord of the kingdom of Kashi is Vishwanath, Lord Shiva. The temple of Lord Vishwanath is still existing in Varanasi, and many thousands of pilgrims still gather daily in that temple. So now we see many demons worship Lord Shiva, and now this demon is worshiping Lord Shiva for the destruction of Lord Krishna himself. However, we know that Lord Krishna and Lord Mahadev happen to be like best friends. So we'll see what will happen. In fact, Lord Krishna considers Lord Shiva to be even like his own brother-in-law, Parvati Devi, having accepted the role of being like the sister to Lord Vishnu, marrying Lord Shiva. They consider themselves to have a family tie. So now we'll see what happens. By the worship of Sudakshana, Lord Shiva was very much pleased and he wanted to give a benediction to his devotee. Sudakshana's purpose was to kill Krishna, and therefore he prayed for a specific power by which he could kill him. Lord Shiva advised that Sudakshana, assisted by the Brahmanas, execute the ritualistic ceremony for killing one's enemy. This ceremony is also mentioned in some of the tantras. Lord Shiva informed Sudakshana that if such a black ritualistic ceremony were performed properly, then the evil spirit named Dakshinagni would appear to carry out any order given to him. He would have to be employed, however, to kill someone other than a qualified Brahmana. In such a case, he would be accompanied by Lord Shiva's ghostly companions, and the desire of Sudakshana to kill his enemy would be fulfilled. What did we say about Lord Shiva's boons? They always come with a little bit of a twist, especially if you do not pray for devotion. When Sudakshana was encouraged by Lord Shiva in that way, he became assured that he would be able to kill Krishna. With a determined vow of austerity, he began to execute the black art of chanting mantras assisted by the priests. So we see there are all kinds of mystical abilities within Vedic culture. There is nothing that is outside of Vedic culture. After this, out of the fire came a great demonic form whose hair, beard, and mustache were exactly the color of hot copper. This form was very big and fierce. As the demon arose from the fire, cinders of fire emanated from the sockets of his eyes. The giant fiery demon appeared still more fierce due to the movements of his eyebrows. He exhibited long, sharp teeth, and sticking out his long tongue, licked both sides of his lips. He was naked, and he carried a big trident which was blazing like fire. After appearing from the fire of sacrifice, he stood, wielding the trident in his hand. Instigated by Sudakshana, the demon proceeded toward the capital city Dwarka, along with many hundreds of ghostly companions, and it appeared that he was going to burn all outer space to ashes. The surface of the earth trembled because of his striking steps. When he entered the city of Dwarka, all the residents panicked, just like animals at the time of a forest fire. Of course, anybody seeing that kind of person enter into their city would freak out. At that time, Krishna was engaged in playing chess in the Royal Assembly Council Hall. All the residents of Dwarka approached and addressed him. "Dear Lord of the three worlds, there is a great fiery demon ready to burn the whole city of Dwarka. Please save us." Thus, after approaching Lord Krishna, all the inhabitants of Dwarka began to appeal to him for protection from the fiery demon who had just appeared in Dwarka to devastate the whole city. Lord Krishna, who specifically protects his devotees, saw that the whole population of Dwarka was most perturbed by the presence of the great fiery demon. He immediately began to smile and assured them. Remember that Krishna's protection is often given in the form of his smile, that smile that eradicates all distress and can soak up the ocean of tears, of miseries expressed by living entities. I used to sometimes get so angry at Krishna for that smile. I would pray and I would think, "Krishna, I'm in so much distress." And then I would look back at his deity. I would look back at these pictures like these, and I would think, "You're still smiling? My heart's broken and you're smiling? I'm in distress. Miseries are coming. I'm in anxiety and you're smiling?" But that smile is the protection of our dearest friend. So if you are in distress and you are praying and you are thinking, "Krishna, why are you smiling?" He's trying to offer us his protection, his shelter, his love. That one smile is actually able to soak up all our miseries like nothing. We have to allow it. We have to let Govinda love us. We have to let Govinda protect us. So, once again, the citizens run to him. They're in distress. There's a fiery demon ready to burn down and devastate the whole city. What does Krishna do first? He smiles at them to assure them that they will not be in danger, not while he's around. Our hero will always protect us. And that smile is proof and evidence that we can take on good authority that he will always protect us. He immediately began to smile and assured them, "Don't worry, I shall give you all protection." Along with that smile that we see, we should write it all down, write it in your journal, repeat it in a voice memo. Remember that when we see that smile, we should hear Krishna's voice telling us, "Don't worry, I shall give you all protection." We can repeat it as an affirmation, as a mantra, so that it gets embedded within our hearts like second nature. Don't worry, I shall give you all protection. So that every moment that we run to Krishna, we hear in our minds, in our hearts, "Don't worry, I shall give you all protection." The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is all-pervading. He is within everyone's heart, and he is without also in the form of the cosmic manifestation. He could understand that the fiery demon was a creation of Lord Shiva, and in order to vanquish him, he took out his Sudarshan Chakra and ordered him to take the necessary steps. I love it. Ordered him, meaning his Sudarshan Chakra. He spoke to his chakra. "Do your thing." The Sudarshan Chakra appeared with the effulgence of millions of suns, his temperature being as powerful as the fire created at the end of the cosmic manifestation. So just his chakra is as powerful as that demon. The Sudarshan Chakra began, by his own effulgence, the Sudarshan Chakra began to illuminate the entire universe on the surface of the earth as well as in outer space. Talk about things that you can see from space. Sudarshan Chakra is one of them. Then the Sudarshan Chakra began to freeze the fiery demon created by Lord Shiva. Krishna has a very special weapon called Vishnu Jwara. It is considered to be a fever weapon, and it is a weapon of extreme cold. I can only imagine that it is this potency that Sudarshan Chakra is employing on behalf of Lord Krishna. Just imagine. Krishna empowers his associates with his very own weapons, his very own mystical potencies, so that Sudarshan, in his own form, can now call upon the mystical potencies of Krishna to do his work. When we do the work of Govinda, Sham Sundar, Madhava, Sri Krishna Chandra, when we somehow speak his glories, do kirtan, do devotional service, when we tell others about him, when we do his work, imagine what potencies he is empowering us with. We cannot even estimate our good fortune anytime we pray to be used in the service of our dearmost friend. This is what it means to work in the grace of the divine, to be empowered by our divine friend. Everything becomes available to us. So whenever we pray, whenever we do our mantra meditation, however it is that you decide to pray, let us pray, "Oh, my divine best friend, work through me. Let me do your work. Let my hands, my body, my mind, my words, my eyes, all of my senses be engaged in your work." Because that is how we become empowered with all the potencies at Krishna's disposal. And no one can estimate how much potency Krishna has. May we all be powerful. May we all be empowered by the grace of Govinda. So Sudarshan Chakra began to freeze the fiery demon created by Lord Shiva. In this way, the fiery demon was checked by the Sudarshan Chakra of Lord Krishna, and being defeated in his attempt to devastate the city of Dwarka, he turned back. Having failed to set fire to Dwarka, he went back to Varanasi, the kingdom of Kashiraj. So, this is a very important lesson that is about to be imparted to those who work in devious magic. There is always a balance, and whatever you put out always comes back. So this demon comes back to Kashiraj. As a result of his return, all the priests who had helped instruct the black art of mantras, along with their employer Sudakshina, were burned into ashes by the glaring effulgence of the fiery demon. According to the methods of black arts, and according to the methods of black art mantras instructed in the Tantra, if the mantra fails to kill the enemy, then because it must kill someone, it kills the original creator. It is a very intense and heavy thing to play with, not for our weak mortal selves. And this was something created by Lord Shiva himself. Lord Shiva had the potency, but Sudakshina did not. Sudakshina was the originator, and the priests assisted him. Therefore, all of them were burned to ashes. This is the way of the demons. The demons create something to kill God, but by the same weapon, the demons themselves are killed. Following just behind the fiery demon, the Sudarshan Chakra also entered Varanasi. The city of Varanasi had been very opulent and great for a very long time. Even now, the city of Varanasi is very opulent and famous, and it is one of the important cities of India. There were then many big palaces, assembly houses, marketplaces, and gates with very important large monuments by the palaces and gates. Lecturing platforms could be found at each and every crossing of the roads. There was a treasury house, and elephant heads, horse heads, chariots, granaries, and places for distribution of foodstuffs. The city of Varanasi had been filled with all these material opulences for a very long time. But because the king of Kashi and his son Sudakshana were against Lord Krishna, the Vishnu Chakra Sudarshan, the disc weapon of Lord Krishna, devastated the whole city by burning all these important places. This excursion was more ravaging than modern bombing. The Sudarshan Chakra, having thus finished his duty, came back to his Lord Sri Krishna at Dwarka. This narration of the devastation of Varanasi by Krishna's disc weapon, the Sudarshan Chakra, is transcendental and auspicious. Anyone who narrates this story, or anyone who hears this story with faith and attention, will be released from all reaction to sinful activities. This is the assurance of Shukadeva Goswami, who narrated this story to Parikshit Maharaj. So not only did we hear a cautionary tale, but we just got greatly benedicted by the Lord himself. Anyone who narrates this story, or anyone who hears this story with faith and attention, will be released from all reaction to sinful activities. This is the assurance of Shukadeva Goswami, who narrated this story to Parikshit Maharaj. During this month of Purushottam, the benefits are endless. So just imagine how much relief we will be getting. And yesterday we heard number 32 in the items of devotional service expressed within the teachings of Lord Chaitanya is that we should also expect Krishna's mercy. So as we are getting relieved from all reactions to sinful activities, let us also expect Krishna's mercy. That Krishna's mercy will come. And his mercy will come in the form of devotion, in the form of love. And so one of my friends is saying, yes, we get relief from sinful activities, but don't do it again. The Nectar of Devotion states that devotional service, these hearing of these pastimes, are so important because not only do they eradicate sinful activities, but they also eradicate the root cause of the problem. They eradicate the root cause of this addiction to material life. They eradicate the desire to want to do those activities again. So how do we decide not to do it again? We keep coming and listening again and again and again. Eagerly, enthusiastically, repeatedly. It's described that Srimad Bhagavatam should be discussed this way. Repeatedly, enthusiastically, eagerly, attentively. There is nectar everywhere to be had. And it eradicates not just the symptoms of our addiction to our conditioned existence, but it eradicates the cause of the addiction. At the root, what is our cause of addiction? We are missing a connection. It is often said that the cause of addiction is not the drug or the substance or the issue itself. It is a lack of connection. We are missing that connection and that affection. Sachinandan Maharaj says that there is a vacuum, a hole in the heart. But what is the shape of that hole? It is a Krishna-shaped hole. And we try and stuff everything else into it. But only Krishna can fit in that jigsaw puzzle piece in our heart. He is the missing piece. If we can reestablish that connection, that will start to help us on the road to recovery. We are all in recovery. Because ultimately we are not these bodies. We are souls. Souls who did not belong here. Souls who do not belong in misery. It says that as part and parcel of Krishna, our souls are also Satchidananda, full of bliss, full of knowledge, and eternal. So how do we get to this place where all of these miseries are? Like Pondrak, we decided we wanted to be the controller. Ah, Krishna, I see how you're being worshipped, but wouldn't it be wonderful if someone worshipped me that way? We are here. There must be a place created, because in Goloka only Krishna is master. Only Krishna is worshipped and served and adored. So Krishna now has to create a place where we can get what we think we want. Thus begins our addiction to this conditioned way of life where we try and try and try to fill that hole. That missing piece. Something is always missing. But that hole is Krishna's. It's a Krishna-shaped hole. Nothing will fill it except Govinda. And so as we come to all of these sanghas, and we buzz like little bees with the pastimes of Sri Krishna, yearning for the nectar of the pastimes of Sri Krishna, yearning to hear about our divine friend. Wait, who were we? Where did we come from? How did we get here? How can we get out of here? Because ultimately we need to get out. The more we come to these sanghas, the less we become enamored by this place. One of my friends is asking, are there other imposters besides Pondrak? Yeah, me. I have to admit, I am an imposter. How many times do I chant and chant and chant and then think, I'm doing the best. I'm a nice singer. I'm doing this kirtan. And Krishna has to show me, no, you're not. It is only me. How many times does Krishna have to show me that I'm not in control? Lovingly so. He still does it lovingly. Because who knows how many activities I've done in former lives that, like this demon, are now coming back to haunt me. And now I'm crying out for protection. Oh, Krishna, save me. And then still I get mad, you know? What's taking you so long? Why are you still smiling when I'm in distress? You should be worried about me only. Because it's all about me. One day, I will stop being a pretender. One day I will remember that it's not all about me. It's about Krishna and Krishna's friends, which are all of you. It's about somehow being a servant of Krishna's friends, being an instrument of the grace of Krishna. It's not about me. One day, I'm going to stop pretending. One day I'm going to stop tacking on those two false arms like Pondrak, telling Krishna, give up your disc and come, do everything at my disposal. And I know Krishna is kind of just chuckling like, oh, here she goes again, trying to control everything. But Krishna even understands that Pondrak is part and parcel of him. So does he say, oh Pondrak, you are damned forever, that's it, your existence finished? Pondrak received the highest mercy. Pondrak got exactly what he wanted. Our Krishna, even as he understands that we need to be corrected, like the kindest family member, the sweetest parent, the most gorgeous beloved, whenever he sends that corrective measure, his mercy in the form of those corrective movements, he always follows it up with the sweetest nectar. And he never leaves us. Imagine, Pandurak Vasudev was proclaiming himself to be the master, and still Pandurak Vasudev had a Paramatma in his heart. And that Paramatma never even left him. We all have Paramatmas in our hearts. They never leave us. Ever, ever, no matter what we do. My Guru Maharaj said there is nothing you could ever do. And we have done so many things in previous lifetimes we don't even know. If we had any knowledge of it all, we'd probably all be really traumatized. So it's kind of good that we forget. But Paramatma knows and never leaves. He is the truest friend we will ever have. You talk about a ride or die, that's Paramatma. That's Krishna. Waiting to bless us with his mercy. Just waiting. Okay, well, as soon as you finish this, then I'm going to give you your mercy. Knowing that Pandurak, as soon as he was done, he gave him chances to surrender. And I'm sure if he would have surrendered, Krishna would have excused everything. But still, he had to execute his duty and show the example of what happens when someone claims to be God. We see it. Of course, there are loads of people claiming to be God with those exact words even today. I'm sure if you put in a search on YouTube, you could go down the rabbit hole of all the people who are claiming to be God in some way, shape, or form. But in my everyday life, that's me. But as soon as Krishna takes out those things from the heart, see that? Krishna will even clean our hearts for us. The holy name will clean the heart and then make it a good place so that Krishna can come and sit there. Krishna corrected Pandurak and then said, here's mercy. We should expect Krishna's mercy. Even the demons are getting it. We see Agasura got mercy. We read about that. Agasura got mercy. Pandurak got mercy. So many demons got mercy. So I say, my Lord, in this lifetime, at least I'm not a demon. At least I'm thinking of you favorably. So I must be getting your mercy. Just any minute now. I'm waiting. Any minute now, I know it's coming. Number 32, expecting your mercy. I know it. So I wish you all a good evening, morning, day, from wherever you are tuning in the world. And I wish you all that you see vivid examples of Krishna's mercy in your upcoming day. And if you are heading to sleep after this, I wish you beautiful dreams filled with Krishna's mercy. And then a day after this, filled with Krishna's mercy. So that we can all be together again for another session filled with adventures with our best friend, our divine Sri Krishna Chandra. Sri Krishna Chandra Bhagavan ki jai, Shri Radha Govinda Dev ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Sri Krishna's unlimited mercy ki jai, expecting Krishna's mercy ki jai. I'll see you all soon. Hare Krishna.